flight attendant slapped a black CEO. Seconds later, she realized it was her boss. Hello everyone, before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's get back to the story. Get out of this seat now. The shout sliced through the quiet cabin like turbulence hitting glass. Every passenger froze. A mother clutched her child. A man halfway through his coffee stopped mid-sip. The blonde flight attendant leaned in, eyes blazing, her hand gripping the shoulder of a woman in a green cardigan. "You heard me," she hissed. "Move before I call security." The woman didn't move. She just looked up, calm, steady, unshaken. That silence alone was louder than the command. The attendant's jaw tightened. Then a crack, the sound of palm meeting skin. Gasps exploded across row 3 to 8. Someone whispered, "Did she just—" Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now back to Naomi. She didn't flinch. Naomi Carter, 38, quiet presence, dressed in jeans and a soft cardigan, sat in seat 2A first class, paid in full, under her real name. But no one on this flight knew that her signature approved every paycheck in this cabin. The air hummed. Passengers shifted phones, raised screens glowing like tiny spotlights on injustice. The man beside her in a navy suit whispered, "Ma'am, maybe just move to avoid trouble." Naomi's reply was calm, razor-thin. "Trouble doesn't move. It teaches." The attendant scoffed. "You people think money buys manners." The phrase landed like poison. Naomi's eyes flickered, not anger, memory. For a heartbeat, she was 22 again, waiting at a boarding gate in Atlanta. Same look, same tone. Back then she'd walked away, but not today. Naomi straightened her posture, slow and deliberate. "Do you know what seat this is?" she asked. Yeah, the attendant snapped. "One you didn't pay for." Naomi smiled slightly, not amused, not angry, just done pretending. Across the aisle, a young Asian woman in a yellow blazer whispered. Her ticket scanned green. "I saw it. Stay out of this," the attendant barked, waving her off. Phones kept recording. Someone muttered, "This is gonna blow up." The captain's voice crackled faintly over the intercom, oblivious to the storm in first class. Outside, clouds rolled beneath them, silent witnesses to a scene about to rewrite a company's history. Naomi's hand moved slowly to her pocket. Not to fight back, not to flee, just one tap on her phone. Somewhere 35000 feet below, a server lit up. A notification pinged in a corporate office in Chicago. Protocol 7 initiated in-flight incident, live feed active. Naomi whispered under her breath, more to herself than anyone else. "You just made your last mistake at 30,000 feet. 30 minutes earlier." Gate B14 buzzed with the quiet chaos of boarding. Passengers in suits scrolled through emails, toddlers clutched plush toys, and somewhere in the line, Naomi Carter adjusted her carry-on. No entourage, no assistant. Just her and a boarding pass that read Seat 2A First Class. She could have taken the private jet. She could have flown under her name, the one printed on every executive memo of North Airlines. But today wasn't about comfort. It was a test. Every quarter she slipped into one of her flights unannounced. Different city, different crew. She wanted to see the truth behind the training videos. What happened when no one knew the boss was on board? At check-in, the clerk had smiled tight. "Upgraded ticket, ma'am?" "No," Naomi had said softly, "paid in full." The woman's smile froze. "Of course. Enjoy your flight." Now stepping into the first-class cabin, Naomi felt that same familiar shift. The quick glance, the flicker of doubt. It wasn't anger. It was expectation. People like her were always expected to explain themselves. She placed her tablet neatly in the seat pocket, folded her cardigan, and breathed. She'd done this before. Walk into a space that questioned her presence before she even spoke. From the galley, a voice chirped, "Nicole, 2A's here." The head flight attendant, blonde hair slicked tight, turned with a polished smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Welcome aboard," she said, tone professional, but her gaze scanning Naomi's jeans, her plain shoes, the absence of a luxury logo. Then quieter, "Are you sure this is the right seat, ma'am?" Naomi's lips curved slightly. "Yes, I'm sure." Nicole tilted her head, already unconvinced. First class, Naomi nodded. Nicole's smile sharpened. I'll double-check. She tapped on her tablet, pretending to scroll. Behind her, another attendant, younger male too confident, muttered, Bet it's another system glitch. They laughed quietly. Naomi said nothing. She'd learned long ago silence makes arrogance echo louder. A few rows back, a young Asian woman in a yellow blazer, Mina, watched, brows furrowed. She'd flown often enough to know that tone. Nicole turned back. I'm not seeing your name here, ma'am. Naomi held up her phone, showing the barcode. It scanned at the gate. Nicole's eyes narrowed. Sometimes fake passes slip through. You'll need to step out while we confirm. Passengers nearby looked up. One man raised an eyebrow. A woman whispered, seriously. Naomi stayed seated. You can confirm from here. Nicole's voice cooled another degree. Ma'am, please cooperate. Naomi looked straight ahead. I am. That word, calm, steady, was enough to unravel Nicole's professionalism. She leaned down, tone now sharp enough to cut metal. You don't belong here. The cabin seemed to shrink. Mina's phone trembled in her hand. She wasn't recording, not yet, but she was ready. Naomi blinked slowly. Say that again. Nicole hesitated, but pride pushed her forward. You don't belong here. A beat of silence. Naomi reached for her bag, not to leave, to retrieve her ID. But Nicole stepped in, hand outstretched. I said step back. Her palm brushed Naomi's shoulder. That single contact, that assumption of authority, it was always the same. A lifetime of moments disguised as policy. Naomi sat very still. You might want to remove your hand, Nicole scoffed. Or what? Naomi's gaze didn't waver. Or you'll regret it before takeoff. Mina's eyes widened. A man across the aisle whispered, she's handling it better than I would. From the galley, the co-attendant called Nicole. We're cleared for doors, but Nicole didn't move. She wanted control. She wanted to prove something. Instead, she proved everything wrong with the system Naomi had built her career trying to fix. Because 30 minutes later, that same hand that brushed a shoulder would cross a line, and Naomi Carter would show the entire cabin what real authority sounds like when it stops pretending to be polite. The seatbelt sign had just blinked off when the cabin turned cold. Not from air conditioning, from tension. You could feel it in the air like static before lightning. Nicole walked back down the aisle, tablet in hand, smile gone. Ma'am, she said loudly enough for row 4 to hear, you're still in the wrong seat. Naomi didn't look up from her tablet. I told you this is my seat. Nicole's eyes narrowed. Then show me your purchase confirmation. Naomi turned the screen toward her. The QR code glowed green, the same green the scanner had confirmed at the gate. Nicole glanced at it for half a second, then laughed. Cute. Fake apps do that now. Heads turned. Whispers started. Someone muttered, wow, that's bold. Naomi finally met her gaze. I don't have to prove my worth to a screen or to you. Nicole's jaw twitched. You think you can just sit here because you want to? This is first class, not charity. That sentence, it landed like a stone in water. Ripples spread. Phones came out again. Mina, from 2 rows back, whispered, stop. Please don't do this. But Nicole kept going. She leaned in, close voice, dripping with fake sweetness. You people always make it harder than it needs to be. Naomi blinked once. Twice. Her silence made the insult echo louder. Then Nicole snapped. I said get up. Her hand darted forward, fingers tight around Naomi's arm. A sharp pull. The cardigan slipped. The crowd gasped. And in that instant, crack, a slap. Hard, fast, loud enough to make the overhead compartments tremble. Everything stopped. Even the hum of the engines seemed to fade. A mother in row 5 covered her mouth. A man in business class muttered, no way that just happened. Mina's phone was already up, trembling. Her lips parted, whispering into the mic. This is wrong. Nicole froze. She hadn't meant to lose control, but pride never apologizes first. She assaulted me, she blurted. You all saw it. No one believed her. Not this time. Naomi didn't rise, didn't retaliate. She adjusted her cardigan, slow and deliberate, as if the slap had been nothing more than turbulence. Her voice, when it came, was low. Sit down, Miss Harris. Nicole blinked. What's it? Naomi repeated, before you embarrass yourself further. From behind the male attendant, Brian stepped forward. Nicole, don't. She's making you look. She's nothing, Nicole snapped. Security will meet her when we land. The cabin stirred. Mina stood up, heart racing. No, her ticket's real. I saw it scan green at the gate. You deleted her name. Nicole turned on her. Sit down, trainee. You don't know how this works. Mina held her ground. I know abuse when I see it. Her voice shook but carried through the cabin, and I recorded everything. That sentence changed the air. Suddenly, it wasn't one woman against policy. It was a cabin full of witnesses against silence. Naomi exhaled eyes on the window. Outside, clouds rolled below like a sea of quiet judgment. She tapped her phone once. A chime soft but certain. Down in Chicago, a notification lit up across multiple executive dashboards. In-flight incident protocol 7 active recording and compliance review initiated. In the cockpit, the captain's radio blinked. Captain Corporate Oversight has joined this channel, said a calm voice from the system. Daniel, the pilot, frowned. What oversight mid-flight? Meanwhile, in seat 2, Naomi folded her hands neatly on her lap. I warned you, she said quietly. Nicole stammered. You can't threaten staff. Naomi looked up, her eyes dark and steady. I don't threaten, I document. Passengers murmured. One whispered, Who is she? Another said, She's too calm for this to be random. Mina, still standing, said it softly, but the whole cabin heard. She's the one who signs your paycheck. Nicole froze. Brian blinked. Even the captain's voice on the intercom hesitated mid-sentence. And in that suspended silence, high above the clouds, the truth began its descent. For a full 10 seconds, no one moved. Not the passengers, not the crew, not even the engines seemed to hum the same. The cabin existed in a strange kind of silence, the kind that happens when power changes hands. Naomi's phone buzzed once. A voice came through her earpiece, calm, efficient. Miss Carter, this is Rachel from HQ. Protocol 7 is active. We're seeing the feed. Do you wish to escalate? Naomi's answer was soft but certain. Yes. Phase 2. Record every word from this cabin. Nicole blinked, stepping back. Who are you talking to? Naomi didn't respond. Rachel's voice continued. Captain Daniel Pierce has been notified. Corporate security is on standby. The board's observing in real time. Nicole let out a nervous laugh, trying to recover control. This is absurd. You can't just call corporate from a plane. Naomi turned to her, calm as ever. You'd be surprised what I can do mid-air. Passengers whispered. The man in 3A muttered, She's not bluffing. Mina stood frozen, her phone still recording, eyes wide with awe. Brian, the male attendant, leaned closer to Nicole. Nicole, I think she's someone. Nicole hissed. She's no one. Probably a lawyer trying to scare us. Naomi rose slowly, every movement deliberate, as though gravity itself bowed to her pace. I told you to sit down, she said evenly. Nicole folded her arms. You can't order me around. Naomi's eyes met hers, steady, unblinking. I already do. That line didn't shout. It didn't need to. It landed, and the room felt it. Excuse me, Nicole said, voice cracking. Naomi took a breath, then turned slightly toward Mina. You can stop recording now. I'll handle it from here. Mina lowered her phone, trembling, unsure whether to sit or salute. Naomi faced the cabin, her voice low but clear. For the record, I didn't come here to be served. I came to see how my people are treated when I'm not watching. Rachel's voice came through the earpiece again, audible enough for nearby passengers to catch fragments. Board members confirmed online. Chairman Holt just joined. Brian's jaw slackened. Wait, Chairman Holt, as in Naomi nodded once. Yes, my partner. Nicole's face drained of color. Naomi continued, each word clipped with composure. You tore up a verified boarding pass. You laid hands on a passenger. You lied about verification logs. And then, she paused. Her tone dropped lower, heavier. You slapped your boss. The words hit harder than the slap itself. No one spoke. Not even the engines dared to fill the void. Nicole stumbled back, shaking her head. No, that's not possible. Naomi turned slightly, gesturing toward her phone. Rachel, confirm identity broadcast. Confirmed, ma'am. Full display authorized. On the cabin's small overhead monitors, the Aero North logo blinked to life, followed by an official message. Attention crew, passenger in seat 2A. Naomi Carter, Chief Executive Officer, Aero North. Airlines. Gasps swept through the rows like a gust of wind. A man near the window muttered, Oh my God. Another whispered, She owns the airline. Nicole stared, hands trembling. I didn't know. Naomi tilted her head. That's the problem, isn't it? You never know who you're really serving because you only see who you think matters. Mina covered her mouth, whispering, This is history. Rachel's voice chimed again, smooth and relentless. Ma'am, would you like me to initiate personnel review for Miss Harris and Mr. Foster? Naomi's gaze never left Nicole. Proceed. Nicole's badge blinked red, deactivated. Brian's tablet went dark. The system logged them out in real time. The cabin erupted in a low chorus of disbelief. One passenger clapped once, then again. Soon half the cabin joined. It wasn't loud, it was reverent. Like applause at a verdict everyone knew was overdue. Naomi sat back down, refolded her cardigan, and took a slow sip of water. Then she looked at Nicole one last time. "Consider this your turbulence warning," she said quietly. "Next time, check your altitude before you swing." Outside, sunlight broke through the clouds, soft, golden, almost forgiving. But inside, justice had already landed. Nicole stood frozen in the aisle, eyes darting between Naomi's calm face and the blinking red badge on her chest. "Wait," she stammered. "You can't just—" Naomi raised a hand, quieting her without a word. "Sit," she said simply. And for the first time, Nicole obeyed. The silence that followed was thick enough to taste. The passengers weren't sure whether to breathe, clap, or pray. Brian, still holding his now dark tablet, took a hesitant step back. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "I didn't—" Naomi looked at him. "You didn't stop her either." He dropped his gaze. From her earpiece, Rachel's voice came steady, professional. "Corporate security has confirmed deactivation. FAA report filed. Media containment in progress," Naomi replied softly. "Good. Make sure Mina from row 4 is credited for the recording." "She did the right thing." "Acknowledged, ma'am." The captain's voice broke through the intercom, uneasy but respectful. "This is Captain Pierce. Miss Carter, we're honored to have you aboard. Should we proceed as planned?" Naomi smiled faintly. "Proceed, Captain. Let's bring everyone home safely." Nicole's eyes glistened, now pride collapsing under the weight of consequence. "I swear I didn't know who you were." Naomi's tone didn't waver. "That's the truth. You didn't. But you should have known better anyway." She turned to the cabin, not as a victim, not as an avenger, but as a leader reclaiming the silence. "When I started Aero North," she began, "I promised myself this company would never become one of those airlines, the kind that talks about respect but forgets how to practice it. I see we still have work to do." No one moved. Even the engines seemed to hum lower, like they were listening. Nicole tried to speak again, but Naomi held up a hand. "Miss Harris, you will hand over your badge to the first officer when we land. Your employment ends the moment those wheels touch ground. Mr. Foster, you'll meet with HR within 24 hours for review." Her tone was factual, not angry. Surgical justice. Then she looked toward Mina. "Thank you for standing up. People like you keep this sky worth flying in." Mina nodded, voice trembling. "I just couldn't stay quiet." Naomi smiled. "Neither could I. Not anymore." Someone started clapping again. This time it spread slower, stronger. Row after row, palms met in rhythm. It wasn't applause for drama. It was respect, for restraint, for composure, for a woman who'd just rewritten what authority looks like at 3,000 feet. Naomi waited until the sound softened, then said the line that would echo far beyond that cabin. "I didn't raise my voice. I raised the standard." Rachel's voice returned in her ear, almost reverent. "Beautifully said, ma'am. Should I file that as your statement?" Naomi chuckled softly. "No. Let the video speak for itself." Outside, sunlight spilled across the wings like forgiveness. Below them, clouds parted, endless white, endless peace. Naomi leaned back in her seat, closing her eyes. For the first time that day, she wasn't thinking about policy or power. She was thinking about a 16-year-old version of herself, the one who once got pushed out of a boarding line because she didn't look like first class. That girl had gone home crying. This woman just changed an airline mid-flight. When they landed, the crew disembarked silently. No headlines yet, no cameras, just passengers glancing at Naomi with quiet admiration. One whispered she didn't even yell. Another said, "That's what real power looks like." Naomi walked down the jet bridge, every step measured. Behind her, the cabin door closed. In front of her, sunlight waited. She breathed in once, steady, certain. And as the airport swallowed the echo of her footsteps, one truth lingered in every witness's mind: power doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just takes its seat in first class and never moves again. By the time Flight 472 landed in Chicago, the story had already left the cabin. It lived now in whispers, in camera rolls, in quiet retellings that would soon reach millions. As the wheels touched down, passengers stayed seated, unwilling to break the strange reverence in the air. Nicole stared straight ahead, badge turned over in her shaking hands. Brian sat beside her, jaw clenched, waiting for a future that had already decided against him. Naomi stood last, calm, poised, untouched. Her cardigan still perfectly folded, her phone still in airplane mode, as if the whole storm had been planned. A flight attendant from economy, young nervous eyes, approached her quietly. "Miss Carter," she whispered, "I just wanted to say thank you. Not just for what you did, but for how you did it." Naomi smiled gently. "You mean quietly?" The girl nodded. "Yes. Everyone talks about strength like it's loud." Naomi placed a hand on her shoulder. "Loud can shake a room. Quiet can change it." The girl blinked back tears. "You just changed the whole company." Naomi's eyes softened. "No. We just remembered what it's supposed to stand for." Outside sunlight washed the tarmac gold. Corporate vehicles waited near the jet bridge. Cameras were already forming a wall behind the glass. Rachel's voice came through Naomi's earpiece again. "Ma'am, the clip's gone viral. We're trending globally. Press wants a statement." Naomi exhaled steady. "Let them have the footage. The truth doesn't need press releases." She stepped off the plane. The terminal seemed brighter, as if justice itself had opened the skylights. Passengers clapped quietly as she passed. Not for fame, for relief. They had seen something rare, power used to heal, not humiliate. Downstairs in the corporate office, a dozen screens displayed live analytics, hashtags rising like smoke. Number Naomi Carter, number Arrow North, number Dignity in the Sky. Rachel turned to the boardroom filled with executives. "Ma'am handled it with zero PR coaching. The public loves her. Calls it the quiet flight revolution." Chairman Holt smiled faintly. "Tell her I said well done. And tell HR I want every crew retrained, not in service, in empathy." Rachel typed fast, already in motion. Meanwhile, Nicole sat in the terminal, pale eyes hollow. A security officer approached politely. "Miss Harris, you'll need to surrender your credentials." She hesitated, then unclipped her badge, the red light still blinking like a final heartbeat. When she handed it over, she whispered. She never even raised her voice. The officer nodded. "That's how you know she didn't have to." Upstairs, Naomi watched the scene through the glass. Not gloating, reflecting. She'd seen people fall before. It never made her proud. Only resolved. Her assistant Nia joined her, tablet in hand. "Media outlets are calling it poetic justice." Naomi smiled faintly. "Justice isn't poetic. It's overdue." They walked toward the private exit. Behind them, the glass walls reflected sunlight, a blur of clouds, steel, and movement. For a moment, Naomi paused. "You know," she said quietly, "I used to think silence was survival. Turns out silence is strategy when you know what you're holding." Nia grinned. "And what exactly were you holding, boss?" Naomi looked out at the runway stretching endlessly ahead, altitude. As they stepped outside, a gust of wind caught her cardigan, lifting it like a flag. The same wind that had once carried humiliation now carried grace. A driver opened the car door. Reporters shouted her name from behind barriers, microphones waving like question marks. Naomi didn't stop. She didn't wave. She simply turned once, eyes steady on the horizon, and said under her breath, "I didn't just raise the standard. I raised the sky." The camera shutters flickered, trying to catch her light, but some power can't be photographed. It can only be remembered. Hours later, an internal memo went out to all Arrow North staff from CEO office. Subject: respect isn't a policy, it's a flight path. Effective immediately, all crews will undergo dignity training. Respect is not conditional, it's operational. That night, social media burned with reactions, tears, applause, arguments. But amid all the noise, one clip stood above the rest. The moment Naomi sat still after the slap, eyes calm, voice unbroken. Pinned in the comments was a quote, "Power doesn't always shout. Sometimes it simply remains seated in first class." And for millions watching around the world, that was enough. By sunrise, the story had left Chicago. It crossed time zones before Naomi even woke up. From Nairobi to New York, from Seoul to São Paulo, millions had already seen it. The slap heard around the world, and the silence that answered louder. The footage wasn't edited. It didn't need to be. A 30-second clip, a white uniformed attendant raising her hand, a still black woman in seat 2A, not even blinking. Then the reveal, "You just slapped your boss." No music, no filters, just truth. By morning, the internet had turned that single sentence into a movement. Number seat 2A trended worldwide. People changed their profile pictures to a minimalist green boarding pass with those 4 characters. Artists painted murals of Naomi sitting calm amid chaos. Eyes focused, posture firm, cardigan immaculate. CNN called it a masterclass in silent authority. The BBC said, "She didn't break the sound barrier, she broke the bias." A columnist in the New York Times wrote Naomi Carter didn't just manage an airline. She managed to land the conversation about dignity back on Earth. Inside Aero North, the ripple became reform. Memos turned into meetings, meetings turned into programs. A new department launched that week, Human Equity Operations, the first of its kind in aviation. Naomi didn't appear on TV. She didn't post a statement. Her silence became the statement, but others spoke. In Houston, a woman who once got removed from a hotel lobby uploaded a tearful video. "When she sat there and didn't flinch, I saw myself every time I swallowed my pride to keep my job." In London, a teenage girl posted, "She proved you. Don't have to yell to be powerful. You just have to know who you are." Even flight crews from rival airlines began filming short clips saying, "For Miss Carter, for respect, for Seat 2A. The Aviation Union released a formal letter apologizing to every passenger ever made to feel small at 30,000 feet. Hashtags multiplied. Number, Seat 2, A number, respect altitude number, the quiet revolution. Meanwhile, Naomi's inbox filled with over 12,000 messages in one day. Some from CEOs, some from janitors, most from ordinary travelers who'd been told at least once, "You don't belong here." She read every message she could, not to bask, to remember. In one particularly raw email, a pilot from South Africa wrote, "You showed the whole world that professionalism is not submission. You didn't fight gravity, you redefined it." Naomi printed that line and pinned it to her office wall. Across the globe, universities discussed the event in ethics lectures. PR agencies rewrote crisis manuals. A law firm coined a new term, Carter Clause, a policy protecting passengers against onboard discrimination. The world had seen 1,000 outrage clips before, people yelling, crying, chaos trending for a day. But this was different. This time, the quiet woman won. Reporters camped outside Aero North headquarters for days hoping to catch a statement. When Naomi finally appeared, she didn't stop for microphones. She simply smiled, nodded once, and said, "The sky's big enough for everyone. Let's act like it." That single sentence became the company's new tagline. Within a week, Aero North rebranded its ad campaign, "Fly Higher, Not Above." Back in her penthouse office, Naomi watched the world move, not faster but fairer. Her assistant Nia entered, tablet in hand. "Madam, media's calling this the quiet flight revolution. They want to know what comes next." Naomi looked out the window, clouds drifting like soft continents. "Next," she said, "we make sure silence never has to defend itself again." And somewhere high above another ocean, another flight attendant greeted a new passenger with a genuine smile. No judgment, no hesitation. The story had done its job. Because sometimes change doesn't roar. Sometimes it takes one woman, one slap, and one sentence that rewrites how the world measures respect. A week after the storm, Chicago was calm again. But inside Aero North headquarters, something new was being born. Naomi stood by the tall glass window of the 47th floor, watching planes take off into a sky she now owned not just as airspace but as meaning. On her desk sat a single photograph, creased old but sacred. A teenage girl in a Sunday dress standing on a sidewalk outside a hotel clutching a tiny overnight bag. The caption written in faded ink, Charlotte, 2003. Naomi Carter, age 16. She had waited in that lobby for her parents' once heart-hopeful smile, careful, until a woman in a gray uniform told her, "This area's for guests only." They'd walked her out like she was invisible. That moment had built her, and now 20 years later it had come full circle. Her assistant Nia entered quietly. "Board meeting in 5, ma'am. Everyone's waiting for the announcement." Naomi turned, eyes soft. "They'll hear it soon enough." She picked up the photo, smoothing its worn edges. "I've been thinking it's time this seat means more than a scandal." Downstairs, the press room buzzed, reporters adjusting microphones, cameras trained on the empty podium. The same podium where airline CEOs usually apologized for delays or budgets. Today, it would host something else entirely. Naomi stepped onto the stage, every flashbulb freezing the moment. She didn't need cue cards. She had memory. "Last week," she began, voice steady, "the world watched a flight that never should have happened the way it did. Not because of turbulence, but because of treatment. And while I can't undo what happened, I can change what happens next." She paused, the air still. "That's why today I'm launching the Seat 2 Foundation, a program dedicated to education opportunity and dignity for young women who've been told they don't belong in first class or in any room at all. Applause broke hesitant at first, then rising like a wave. Naomi continued, "Each year this foundation will sponsor 100 scholarships for girls pursuing leadership in aviation engineering and hospitality, fields where faces like theirs are still rare. Because visibility isn't vanity, it's validation." In the front row, Mina wiped a tear. She had flown in for this moment wearing that same yellow blazer from the flight. Naomi caught her eye and smiled. "Seat A isn't just a number," she said. "It's a reminder. That respect should never depend on a uniform, a ticket, or a tone of voice." Reporters lowered their cameras. They weren't covering a press event anymore. They were witnessing a promise. Later that afternoon, Naomi walked through an empty hangar where the first Seat 2A Foundation aircraft would be painted. A white fuselage, clean and bright. Across its side in bold silver letters, "Fly higher, bring others with you." A crew of interns watched in awe as the final letter dried. One of them, a shy 17-year-old named Alicia, approached her. "Miss Carter, my mom showed me your video. She said you reminded her to be proud again." Naomi smiled. "Then your mom taught you something I'm still learning. Pride isn't arrogance. It's proof we survived." Alicia hesitated. "Do you really think people like us can lead airlines one day?" Naomi crouched slightly, meeting her eye level. "I don't think it, Alicia. I expect it." When the girl walked away, Naomi glanced back at the hangar doors slowly opening. Sunlight poured in, washing the silver letters until they glowed like hope itself. She whispered to the empty air, "For the girl in Charlotte, this is for you." And somewhere in that endless blue above a plane rose steady and sure, carving a path through the sky, the same sky that once turned its back on her. Only now it carried her legacy. Because the true altitude of power isn't measured in miles. It's measured in how many others you lift when you rise. Night fell quietly over Chicago, the kind of stillness that comes only after a storm has done its work. Naomi sat alone in her office, city lights flickering below like constellations reflected on glass. The world outside had already crowned her a symbol, the quiet CEO, the woman in Seat 2A. But inside she was still just Naomi Carter, a woman who refused to flinch when the world told her to bow. The screens around her displayed fragments of the revolution she never meant to start. A classroom of girls reciting her words in Nairobi. A pilot pinning a number, Seat 2A badge to his uniform in Sydney. An airline lounge where staff now greeted passengers with genuine warmth instead of practiced politeness. Change, she realized, didn't need a roar. It needed rhythm, consistency, grace. The door opened softly. It was Nia holding 2 mugs of coffee. "You should rest," she said. Naomi smiled. "You've been saying that since the incident." "Because you haven't stopped since the incident," Nia replied, handing her the cup. Naomi took it, the steam curling like a thought. "You ever wonder what all of this was for?" Nia leaned against the window. "You mean the flight?" Naomi shook her head. "The fight." For a moment neither spoke. The city hummed beneath them. Finally, Naomi said, "You know, when I was 16, I thought power meant being heard. Now I know it means knowing when not to speak and still being understood." Nia nodded slowly. "That's beautiful." Naomi smiled, a hint of mischief in her eyes. "Good. Write it down before someone else does." They both laughed softly, the kind of laughter born from exhaustion and victory at once. On her desk lay a single envelope sealed in black wax. It was addressed simply to the next woman in Seat 2A. Nia noticed it. "What's that?" Naomi's gaze lingered on it like a memory she wasn't ready to release. "A letter I wish someone had left for me." "Can I ask what it says?" Naomi nodded. "You'll know soon enough." "You'll deliver it one day?" Outside, thunder rumbled far away, not menacing, just reminding. She turned her chair toward the window, watching a plane ascend through the clouds, a small flicker of silver slicing through darkness. She whispered to herself, "Every flight begins with faith, the belief that something heavy can rise." Then she spoke louder, as if the sky could hear her. "You taught them to look up, Naomi," she murmured. "Now teach them to lift others when they do." The phone buzzed once. A message from the foundation team, Seat 2A scholarship recipients confirmed. "First class departs tomorrow." Naomi smiled. "Perfect," she said. "Let's keep them flying." She stood walking to the glass wall overlooking the city. Her reflection shimmered against the skyline. Half light, half shadow, just like her journey. "I used to think survival was enough," she whispered. "But survival is just the runway. Legacy, that's the flight." Her voice softened into the quiet room. "I didn't raise my voice. I raised the standard, and I won't stop until grace becomes policy. The camera, if this were film, would slowly pull back now, Naomi framed against the Chicago night, the city glittering like applause below her feet. On the desk, the envelope remained illuminated by the soft glow of her monitor. If the camera zoomed close enough, the words written in her handwriting could be read, "To the next woman who's told she doesn't belong, sit down, stay calm, and let your power introduce itself." Outside, another plane rose into the night engines, whispering against the wind, a sound not of departure but continuation, because justice, like flight, is never finished. It just keeps climbing. And as the sky swallowed that final streak of silver, one truth remained steady and unshaken: power isn't loud. Power isn't cruel. Power, when it's real, moves with grace.